and welcome to another edition of our Multimedia Plus Online Television News. I am Lucy Emanet Aliu. Top stories for this edition. Prosecution team in the ongoing treason trial between the state versus Alfred Paulo Conte delivers a closing argument. United Bank of Africa donates assorted stationaries to the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. Emergency Operations Center hands over sound amplifiers to the Sierra Leone Scouts Association. And Public Relations Officer of the Sierra Leone Correctional Service, Chief Officer Leslie Cole Showers, speaks on the effects of COVID-19. These stories and more you'll find on today's edition on our news broadcast. Stay with us. Let's take today's news broadcast going with our very first story. The United Bank Africa has donated some stationaries to the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. Multimedia's Theresa Thomas witnessed.
The presentation was made at the education radio station. The rationale is to support the free quality education and to help pupils to improve their reading and writing culture during this period of COVID-19 while at home. Kunle Oyewole is the head of internal audit at the United Bank Africa.
Is the long-term goal of supporting education for United Bank of Africa is to develop manpower. Human capital development is very key for any economic development to happen, and so that's the reason why before now and after now, UBA as an institution and UBA Foundation as an organization will continue to support education all over Africa, and Sierra Leone is not an exception. So the purpose of doing this is to make sure that the online schooling that the ministry is currently doing, which we are all enjoying, we thank you so much for that, is greatly supported and it continues. And even after COVID-19, like we said, because we know it's going to come to an end very soon, we'll be able to conquer it by God's grace. And then we'll continue, UBA as usual will continue in the light to provide, we provide books, the UBA Foundation provide books for children all over Africa to read. We teach them how to read and we support education in all various forms and shapes.
Brahma Ture is the Deputy Director and School Broadcasting and Public Relations Officer at the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education.
Obviously, it cannot be much of a surprise to us as a ministry because we know that part of UBA's activities and operations are geared toward supporting education, and this is not the first time they've been doing this. And so it doesn't come to us as a surprise. It's just a consolidation of the partnership that had existed and that will continue to exist beyond this point. And also what they're doing can also be something that will pay back to UBA, because when they participate in developing the human capital, obviously they will benefit from that development as an institution. And so we work collaboratively so that we can all be winners at the same time.
The brand manager for the United Bank of Africa, Esther Michael Eme, said the symbolic presentation is also a show of partnership with the ministry. She said the bank will continue to support the ministry with educational material whenever the need arises.
UBA, United Bank for Africa, remains the dominant leading Pan-African bank across the globe. And we know that education is very key, it's very important. And under the UBA Foundation, we have the Read Africa Initiatives program, which understands that, which drives the objective to empower young people through education and want to imbibe in them the culture of reading. And so that's why we're here. We understand the dream of the government of Sierra Leone to empower young people through education, and we know that this is core and this is very important. And all of us here speaking and talking is because we went through a schooling system, we went through education.
Multimedia Plus Online Television, Theresa Thomas reporting.
The National Commission for Social Action, NACSA, is one of the institutions at the fore championing the country's efforts to combating the COVID-19 pandemic. My colleague Sheko Kamara has been speaking to the Commissioner of NACSA, Abubakar Kokofele, in this interview on the institutions undertaken in the said fight.
Oh, NACSA leads the social protection pillar, looking at social-related issues affecting people resulting from the coronavirus. But then generally, during emergencies like this or during normal development period, NACSA is the government of Sierra Leone's body that looks at social issues. Well, as usual, in every human setting, there are challenges. In the situation that we find ourselves in a very poor country like this, the needs are enormous. A lot of people are in need. Yeah, so NACSA comes with opportunities, with funding from the World Bank, funding from the German Development Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, and also the government of Sierra Leone to reach out to people in need, especially extremely poor households, but it's never enough. So you find out there's a mountain pile of need and the resources are limited and the people clamor over the little opportunities available. So you're caught in the middle. People think you should reach out to everyone, but it's just practically impossible. Well, I think the most important thing is the credibility of the institution that we have tried to maintain. I mean, a sense of neutrality, independence, and transparency to ensure that when we select targeted communities for support, when we select targeted individuals for support, the process is so transparent such that if you are excluded, you are clear about the circumstances surrounding your exclusion. If you're included, you know it's not by way of favoritism, it's because you deserve it, you merit it. Well, the appeal I'll make to everybody is reinforcing the President's regulations and regulations from health institutions. We maintain social distancing. We cover, even though I am not covering right now, perhaps to be able to do this interview adequately, we carry face masks so we don't transmit the disease, and also protect ourselves in case you come into contact with somebody who is infected. If you're protected, you protect yourselves, and also move away from crowded communities. Wash our hands. Let's wash our hands regularly everywhere we go, even back in our houses. Let's wash our hands. That's by way of advice to everybody.
That was the Commissioner of the National Commission for Social Action, NACSA, Abubakar Kokofele, ending that interview with my colleague Sheko Kamara. Be reminded you're viewing content from the Multimedia Plus Online Television. The Emergency Operations Center has officially handed over some sound amplifiers to the Sierra Leone Scouts Association. The items will aid in ongoing sensitization against the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. Anthony Vandy tells us more.
The Sierra Leone Scouts Association has received 27 T-shirts, 200 face masks, 5 megaphones, and 1 PA system. These items are to be used in furthering the fight against COVID-19. Patrick Massaquoi is the commissioner for the Sierra Leone Scouts Association.
Out of nothing, we are able to do something, which is at times very impossible. People they say out of nothing you cannot do something, but out of nothing we are able to go into the communities and raise awareness, because currently we got to strengthen the knowledge and understanding of the people. We did that on Saturday. On Sunday it was a lockdown, and we are called in order to provide 100 manpower. That shows say we don't demonstrate, we don't bring the theory into practical realities of what we stand for. So today we there because EOC don't hand over the items they have for we not for can keep on a store. We have to utilize it for the right purpose. And for let it be, we need forget the president and also the one way now we own box for let it come in the presence of EOC for let it see the item there and hand that over to we, because some item in there not so we get them, they give it for use them, and if we are to use it, let us use them wisely.
Whilst receiving the items, he said the association is very much appreciative of the EOC for recognizing their effort in the fight against COVID-19 virus.
Their particular items there, when they say go use them, not go use them for go make publicity for you Punado. You for use them for this fight against the faceless enemy referred to as C-19. So now that make we gather here for the presence of we colleagues in the fight from EOC, and for let this chief commissioner come and give blessing, because if he put in hand and say use it judiciously, of course when I not say with discipline at times they are militant, we have to make sure that we abide by our rules and regulations, and we have to ensure that whatever advice that is given to us, we have to embrace it.
Patrick Massaquoi said the association comprised the Big Four, which is the Scouts Association, Boys Brigade, Girls Guide, and the Sierra Leone Red Cross. Multimedia Plus Online Television, Anthony Vande reporting.
You're still with Multimedia Online Television News. Lucy Emanet Aliu is my name. We're now going for a short break. We'll be back. Stay focused.
The package if you get even the haters testify, called the man when I was amateur. Couldn't holler them, my team is vicious fever, the Taliban. The game don't see.
The boy Caldanero, man, live and direct, man, within our studio, man. You know what I mean? Kiss the Throne EP coming. I just kindly want to freestyle at this very good studio. The setup is good. Emanize and Django. Shout out to Una. Proud of what Una they do. You know, we need more of this in the industry.
Hey, it's Emerson, the last man standing. Of course, we're right here at Multimedia Plus, and we had a great session. And come check it out. It's a great studio, you know, great sounds, great producer, and support your own saloon content. Sugar Entertainment at Multimedia Plus. Peace.
Voiceover we there, simple and soundtrack we there, documentary podcast we there.
Well, welcome back, viewer, to the program. This is Multimedia Plus Online Television News with Lucy Emanet Aliu. Let's continue with the rest of our stories. The devastating effects of the coronavirus pandemic cannot be overstated, as it could be seen as an expression of the obvious. The operations of almost all sectors have been greatly affected by the onslaught. To this end, my colleague Sheko Puska Kamara also earlier engaged the public relations officer of the Sierra Leone Correctional Service, Chief Officer Leslie Cole Showers, in this interview.
It has affected the way we work, especially in Freetown, because we have inmates who have been affected by the virus in Freetown only, and not in any of our centers in the provinces. So since we were hit by the shock of COVID-19, our medical personnel have been focused on the COVID-19 cases that we have. Instead of focusing on other sicknesses, they are now focused on the inmates who have COVID-19 in Freetown, because previously we used to have inmates suffering from tuberculosis, from malaria, from typhoid and other sicknesses. But since we were hit by the COVID-19, all of them have been focused on helping the inmates who have been affected by the COVID-19. We have 19 of them as we speak right now. We have our way of operating. We are a regimental institution. We are not civilians, as you know already. So there is a way in which we will handle it. Civilians will not be able to handle it in that kind of way. And especially given the fact that we are a security outfit, we want to ensure that they do not escape if they are taken outside, because that was what happened with the index case that we had, the case 90 in the country. One 29-year-old young man, when he was taken to the treatment center at Fobe College, he escaped from the treatment center, and since then we were advised by the emergency operations center to be housing any inmates that contract COVID-19. So that's what we've been doing since then. And then we have a specialized hospital that was constructed in 2019. It was supposed to be devoted for officers only, but we haven't even commissioned the hospital yet. It was still being constructed, and we're still trying to bring in some equipment into the hospital when we were hit by this COVID-19 stuff. So we had to use it now to treat, for the treatment of these inmates who have contracted the coronavirus. So as we speak now, they are all in that mini hospital that we constructed for officers. They are being treated in that hospital right now. Very burdensome, my brother. You know, to be very honest with you, in terms of allocation, government allocation, it is no secret. I mean, it is being published on newspapers. It is being said by various broadcast media institutions. We are a malnourished institution when it comes to, you know, government funding. We have to ask and ask and ask every now and then. Fundings don't seem to be forthcoming. You know, if government is supposed to give you 5 billion, they give you 1.5 billion, and you know they expect us to run the place. We understand that government is engrossed in solving other problems in the country as well, but it is high time government understands that we are an institution that keeps criminals or alleged criminals, because not all of them have been convicted. So we are a very important institution. You know, without us, society will crumble. You know, as
well, that was the public relations officer of the Sierra Leone Correctional Service, Chief Officer Leslie Cole Showers, speaking there to Multimedia's Ashako Putka Kamara. Well, let's now go for some health and sensitization, even as we continue to take preventive measures to keep ourselves quite safe from the novel coronavirus.
There is a global outbreak of a new coronavirus disease that is rapidly spreading to a number of countries around the world. Common signs and symptoms include cough, fever, shortness of breath, and difficulty in breathing. In severe cases, complications include pneumonia, and kidney failure may occur and possibly leads to death if left untreated. Everyone is at risk of getting this disease. The virus is spread through droplets produced during coughing or sneezing by a sick person. You can get the disease if you are in close contact with a person who has the disease or infected animals and animal products. Travel to areas affected by the outbreak is a risk to getting infected. To protect yourself and others, wash your hands frequently with soap and water, or use alcohol-based hand rubs. Cook your meat products and eggs thoroughly. If you are infected, prevent spreading the disease by covering your mouth and nose when coughing or sneezing with flexed elbow or tissue, and wash your hands immediately after. If you suspect that you or a member of your family or anybody has the coronavirus, you should immediately seek medical care at the nearest health facility. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health and the ZNPHI with support from partners.
Elisha made it known before the Honorable Court that he wished to call up the other witnesses, as the testimonies are not relevant, and by so doing, the court's time will be prevented from being wasted. The defense team, however, insisted that the witnesses should be presented before the court, even if they cannot testify. They should be tendered before the Honorable Court. 3 witnesses were presented before the Honorable Court. They were PW 14117, Detective Sergeant Ibrahim Bawa, Detective Inspector Aminata Kamara, and 5736, Detective Sergeant Mada Mustafa. After all the witnesses were presented before the court, the prosecution team closed their case. The lawyer for the third accused said that they will rely on the statements made by the third accused at the CID and by the evidences provided before the court. He mentioned that they shall not be calling on any witnesses. Honorable Momoja Stevens made an order for the defense team to serve the prosecution team the no-case submission in a written form on Friday. The defense team will be opening their case on Monday, 15th June 2020. For Multimedia Plus Online Television, Fatimata Binta Jallo reporting.
Well, that's all we have time for in today's news podcast here on Multimedia Plus Online Television. But before we close, here's a recap of our headlines. Prosecution team in the ongoing treason trial between the state versus Alfred Paulo Conte delivers a closing argument. United Bank of Africa donates assorted stationaries to the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. Emergency Operations Center hands over sound amplifiers to the Sierra Leone Scouts Association. And Public Relations Officer of the Sierra Leone Correctional Service, Chief Officer Leslie Cole Showers, speaks on the effects of COVID-19. Well, thank you very much for sharing your time with us here on Multimedia Plus Online Television. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Multimedia Plus Online Television for more updates, news broadcasts, programs, and interviews. We're also on Facebook at Multimedia Plus. Please visit, like, and share our page. I'm Lucy Emanes Aliu. Until we meet again next time, stay safe.